Good morning and welcome into the SMITE Console League. My name is Finch and happy to have you here with me. As always, we've got some big matches lined up throughout the entirety of the console day. Now, because we're making it towards the end of the phase, at this point, a lot of these regions are locked up in terms of who's going to be the representative coming towards the end of the year. I'll give you a bit of a breakdown of how that works. We're in that first segment over there, that first phase, where we'll be having the top team from each region in console make it towards that placement week. They'll be playing in a bit of a play-in bracket towards the rest of the placement week, so only 2 console teams will make it to where they get to play with everyone else. 4 SML teams as well as the bottom 4 SPL teams, all trying to make it to the World Championships. That's happening November 15th through the 17th. You absolutely do not want to miss that. Make sure you're there for it. Remember, that is what this is all about. But the way that we determine which teams that make it are, of course, the teams at the top of the standings in each of their respective regions. We start off with PS4EU, as we always do, and it's Arial Arise up there at the top, 8-2, OutCold Gaming at 5-5, with only 2 more games to go, I believe. Can't quite catch them here at this point. If they were to win all the way through and Arial Arise were to lose all the way through, then perhaps they could. But Arial Arise has been playing so well up until this point that it doesn't quite seem likely. But at least it'll be a big decider match between those top 2 teams here at PS4 EU. But it's a big deal in general. Remember, it was OutCold that represented an MSI, so kind of a big deal that Arial Arise improved over an Xbox EU rival. Continues to be the top team, and it really has not been particularly close. Despite how strong Davos have looked, they have not been able to figure out a way to stop this rival team even once just yet. So Rival are the ones that will be that representative, and they'll be playing off broadcast. We'll have that Jellyfish and Hive Central matchup coming for you a little bit later on in the day. So that's what we're going to be looking at here on the EU side of things, where we'll have that next halftime for NA later on in the day. Give us a few minutes. I got to find myself an analyst, and then we'll be back for that PS4 EU set.
Talk about the new stuff that we've got coming out for you all.
Look, HRX is literally my favorite time of year. It truly isn't close. This is what I live for.
It's that second place. I can't wait to see what first place is.
It's HRX.
And welcome back to the Console League. Glad you didn't go anywhere in that very small break. It's Finch here, and we are going to be moving into specifically Arial Arise up against OutCold, the 2 best of the best here in PS4 EU. And to help me break it all down, I did indeed find myself an analyst. It's oCxnnahh. That's right here by me. Tully, how you doing, man?
Feeling really good. Week number 12, things are wrapping up for the PS4 EU and all of the console world, and we're going to see that number 1 versus number 2. Mathematically, unfortunately, for OutCold Gaming, they can't make it towards the placements, but this is still an important set to win for Arial Arise to just feel confident going into that important placements.
You're right. They're still in a very young region here in PS4 EU, so every bit of confidence you can have when you start to move into an area where you play against the big boys could help out a lot. And remember, if you're OutCold, I'm sure you'd like to play for a little bit of pride here. If you could beat the representatives on the tail end of the year, then you can feel really good about yourselves as well. So both of these teams, I imagine, will be bringing the absolute best of the best as we move into the picks and bans for game number 1. Arial Arise will be the first pick. OutCold here will be second. And Tully, we've seen a lot of different approaches to these picks and bans, I feel like, here lately, where maybe you let some really good stuff through, you try and ban it all out. It can be tough sometimes.
It definitely could be, especially when teams are letting those good things go through, like the Ullrs of the world. Sometimes the Thors will go through as well. So some other sleeper bans, such as the Geb, goes to the higher sort of things, the Hunbats, that we don't normally tend to see.
That's right, and something you can do as the first pick is ban away some of those somewhat safer ones. Now, a lot of strong stuff is still out there. Isis has not been banned here yet at this point. Khepri has been highly valued. Obviously, the Persephone as well, and Arial Arise happily take that one as their first pick. That does mean they'll potentially be leaving the Isis up as a response pick from OutCold, but so far, it doesn't look like they're valuing it. They're taking the Ullr and the Loki. Very surprised to see that that's being valued here at this point. So, totally, any thoughts on where this Loki might be going?
No one knows where the Loki goes, honestly. It could be solo lane, it could be jungle. I would prefer to see it in that solo lane so you can stack up very easily. Although long lane wouldn't be a bad idea either. We've seen some set assassins go in that long lane. Loki, once he gets level 9, he has kill potential.
Well, one thing that is important to note here is that OutCold made sure they locked in that Loki while they could. It does unfortunately mean that they had to give up Thor and Isis, but I mean, if you don't get the Loki while the Loki's good, then you could end up missing out on it entirely. So I'm right there with them. You gotta grab Loki in those top 2 picks, especially with Isis still out there. It just makes a ton of sense. Ganesh also being picked up here by OutCold for that support position, and could possibly interrupt some of this channeling that comes out from the Isis and from the Thor. Could be strong.
I mean, there are some counter picks towards the Isis. The Osiris with the Judgment Tether mitigates a lot of that damage. It's easier to apply that anti-healing if you hit the Lord of the Afterlife. So there's some merit to picking up the Loki early to bait out the Isis and then counter it later.
And then Najah and Kukulkan round out the draft here for Arial Arise. Very strong picks they've gotten for themselves. Looks like it's going to be Najah support, Kukulkan in the solo lane, as far as I can say. You might be worried that both their carries are magical damage here, but it looks like they've got a good amount of physical to go along with
I
it.
think so too. I'm not too worried for either of these teams, honestly. It's going to be more dynamic and execution heavy for Arial Arise, but no team gets to 8-2 by accident. I think that this is a team that can definitely execute.
I think so too. Arial Arise and OutCold, game number 1 about to start, and we will continue to stick with you as we move into this first game. Doug will be the one that's bringing you all the vision. Distortion taking the Persephone to the long lane, up against Just Lion's Ullr, but Raidunw has shown up, so has Dragon King. Distortion, now that he's been stunned, is certainly going to fall for first blood. OutCold grab it with Just Lion off an early gank that Distortion was not ready for.
That's how we gank the Persephone at level 1 before she even has 25 stacks of her seeds to revive her in the first place. Distortion, not respecting that potential stun, holds onto his speeds, and if you're going to gank, might as well try to gank before the lane even reaches the minions in the middle.
And it made for a relatively low-cost gank for them, too, if it hadn't worked, but it certainly did. FataliTyxFire and Pulsza trading in the jungle, but Pulsza's the one that had a shell available to him. Now FataliTyxFire can try and come back in that the shell is dissipated, but at this point it's going to be a tough matchup. Pulsza has the HP advantage and is able to use the ring bounce to get Arial Arise on the board for their first kill.
Even with Pulsza missing that 4th basic attack, which is a huge hit, by the way, something like about 1.2, maybe even 1.4 around that range, he still confirms the kill because applying the slow with a ring bounce. The last hit really disrupts out FataliTyxFire because he got his own speed buff, but now that he died with it, he's not going to be able to farm the rest of the map the same pace that he's normally accustomed to.
I think that's good. That could end up hurting FataliTyxFire as he's taken the Osiris into the jungle. Just Lion has found himself a pick on the middle lane on the Ollie, and that's an early rotation from this long lane Ullr of Just Lion. He likes to play aggressive, but that's a bit aggressive even for him, as now GunTeR Warrior is in some trouble here in right, and Khan has found one of his own.
It's an absolute bloodbath. 4 kills in less than 2 minutes of play, but Just Lion getting both of them from OCG is so important because it's on an Ullr that's trying to finish off that Transcendence stacks, trying to get off that physical power up against a mage of the Isis, and he's just ping-ponging every which way. He was long lane, he was mid, now he's back to the long lane.
It has worked out for him here so far, as now at this point 2-0, as you were saying. And now 3-0, Just Lion goes aggressive onto Distortion. And this Loki pick, I think, is obviously a bit of fun. You know, we don't see Loki much here at all. But, I mean, these teams fought really hard the entirety here this phase, and they're clearly still bringing it here in this match. So Just Lion not having a bad start to this.
I definitely agree. And when Just Lion is popping off like this is going to allow that Loki in this solo lane to still bake in the oven without any sort of worry. As long as SARPEII doesn't gank that solo lane, I think that GunTeR Warrior can transition very safely in this mid to late game. But if I'm GunTeR, or sorry, if I'm SARPEII, I gotta be thinking about ways to shut down this Loki with my global pressure as soon as I hit level 5.
And let's talk about this Loki a bit here, because we don't see it nearly at all at the competitive level. And Loki very rarely has team fighting presence, I would say. He does a lot of split pushing. I mean, he's going to be proxying the waves early on. When does he start, you know, coming in looking for picks and kills in the fights?
About level 12 or so, once you max out your aim strike, that third ability, you have the Transcendence, you have Warrior Tabai as well with it, and working probably towards a Crusher. It could even be the Hydra's Lament for more cooldown reduction. And with the changes to some of these items like cooldown reduction onto the Transcendence and Hydra's Lament, I'm surprised Loki doesn't get played more often now as opposed to the past.
Oh, maybe there is a bit more room for him to get played in this current meta than what we saw before, as FataliTyxFire tried to defend his blue buff, but looks like he couldn't get there to outpace Kana and SARPEII. So despite the breakneck pace this game had at its very start, it slowed down a little bit as everyone's kind of felt each other out, it feels like, and now they're ready to kind of get back into the groove of their normal farming. I
mean, still, with more than 1 average kill per minute played, this is a high-intensity game. Kana is a good pick, I think, of the Kukulkan up against Loki because of that event anger. You're pulsating that AoE damage. You're going to try to reveal the Loki during the stealth, not necessarily break him out of the stealth because damage doesn't break it, but you could at least follow the Loki with all that ticking dot damage. And something that old school soul laners such as myself used to do was build into the mystical mail for that purpose.
And he basically has a free one there in the kid as SARPEII has to loop around the backside. That's how much pressure Just Lion has it. SARPEII couldn't even really look for a gank attempt there. GunTeR in some trouble. Kana on the full-on dive, and this should be a kill. Has the Salmon Leap available, so he makes it out of there. But with FataliTyxFire rotating over, hard to imagine that Kana can survive through this one. Does miss a couple abilities, but the basic attacks get it done.
Well, getting the kill, getting 3 archers as well. I think that this is a valuable trade. Distortion, though, needs one more basic, but the passive gets revenge on Just Lion.
It's going to be hard to trade effectively up against a Persephone. She gets to keep on living after the death. But I don't know. I almost wonder if Kana giving a relatively valuable kill to FataliTyxFire is less valuable, or is more valuable than getting the kill on the GunTeR Warrior at that point. I wonder if Kana might have perhaps given away a little bit too much with FataliTyxFire there in the jungle.
It depends, though, because GunTeR Warrior, his teleport was down, so he's not getting that wave after he just died. And on top of that, the more and more times he either dies or has to back to base, you're delaying his stacks of the Transcendent, you're delaying his farm for the Warrior Tabai boots, and then you can continue to be a bully with your global pressure.
Oh, this Loki's in trouble. SARPEII is taken to the sky. He knows right where he is, on top of the Totemaku. Walls him off, and the spin there as well. Into the stealth he goes. Looks like they had a good idea of where he was, and Pulsza cutting him off, looking for the ring bounce. Can't find that, but they can't find the Windfire wheels either. GunTeR Warrior almost had a turnaround kill, but no ultimate.
Great juggle of the aggro. Pulsza, surprised that he goes for the ultimate instead of the sash.
Yeah, might not have
I think that would have just set up Kana for the barbed spear to get the guaranteed kill afterwards. But either way, no harm, no foul. They get the kill, but this could be a foul if OutCold can sneak away this objective.
Yeah, he probably sashed a camp or something like that. Is now Goldfear being looked at by OutCold. 4 members here, and no way Arial Arise can contest this. A hefty commit to the right-hand side to punish GunTeR Warrior ends up costing them a Fury on the left-hand side.
Our perfect play when you overcommit to the right side of the map, especially this early on. The Gold Fury is not that difficult to burn through.
Goodness.
Already Distortion getting more revenge on Just Lion.
And not the only one. Kana looking for GunTeR Warrior. I don't know if he expected GunTeR to come back towards the Tier 1 tower. Meanwhile, SARPEII and Pulsza quite low. There's a Circle of Protection, and that sets up the turnaround. Ollie finds DragonKingJagia. FataliTyxFire is quite low as well, and Ollie gets himself a double. That pushes them back out of the middle lane, and Arial Arise stand tall.
You gotta respect that Circle of Protection. If anything, you gotta CC the Isis, not the other targets, because the amount of CC she brings, the damage mitigation, the healing, it's such a utility ultimate that also does a lot of damage, and that's going to be the second kill for Ollie, now trying to finish off his Doom Orb.
And it looks like GunTeR Warrior survived that last dive from Kana there as well, too, so that's a pretty big deal that he was able to at least avoid 1 death. And it's so difficult to try and lock down a Loki. You can bully him as much as you want in lane, but it just feels like eventually he'll get to the point where he's on and doing relevant damage. You kind of just have to delay it as much as possible, as Just Lion and Distortion are having a full-on brawl. No CC immunity available to Just Lion on the Ullr, so he's stuck inside the whole time. Finally gets the leap off, but there's a flower chasing him. It was almost enough.
Wow. That was really close, but Distortion might have bit off more than he can chew. He overcommitted towards that tower line. If Raiden can hit the stun...
He's got beads, though, available, does Distortion, so he can still use it. Instead, Raiden turns around towards Pulsza, who's stuck inside the Ohm, and that means he can't get off any abilities, but Ollie is on his way to this as well. They end up intercepting the dash. There's the Spirit Ball to keep the CC chain going, plus a sash for good measure. Pulsza finds another kill.
I love how patient Distortion was with his leap to use that during the Dharmic Pillars, and on top of that, his overextensiveness of that positioning baited out OutCold Gaming to chase with a counter rotation from Arial Arise. So good counter mind games from both of these teams, and Ollie now sitting at level 9 on this Isis is going to be so scary to deal with.
It's already been really difficult. He's going that new build we've seen lately, the cooldown boots into the Doom Orb. Venenu goes the Messenger's Mask, but it seems like that's just a Venenu thing. Everyone else usually goes in some pen right after this, but I mean, Ollie's going to be building along a pretty good curve at this point.
And this is important for him to get that movement speed. Did you see how fast it took him to make that rotation? Without that movement speed from Doommark, he might not have even got there.
SARPEII has found just a lion here in the jungle, and those are his beads too. Even if SARPEII doesn't get this kill, that's basically a free fight now for Distortion to be able to use that Grasp of Death ultimate as Pulsza has to use the Windfire Wheels defensively to retreat from OutCold.
Ollie using that circle of protection, but off the mark was FataliTyxFire. If that ultimate hits, I think that could have been a kill.
Ollie's juking all of these abilities from FataliTyxFire. FataliTyxFire has not looked supremely comfortable on the Osiris. Just Lion gets SARPEII. GunTeR Warrior rotates over and is able to find Pulsza. That's a 2-for-1 now in favor of OutCold, and they might be able to do a little bit better. They've got Ollie silenced, and Just Lion rotates over 3-for-1 in favor now of OutCold.
Kana trying to survive and do what he can in a 1v4. Needs a little bit of more rage to transform. He's juking to his heart's content, but I don't think it's enough, Finch.
It's not. Just a Lion has a monster team fight there as he rotates over and finds 3 kills. It was 4-for-1 in OutCold's favor. The only problem is the Fury was already taken by Arial Arise, and there's no Pyromancer. I don't even know if they're going to be able to push down tier 1.
I mean, they could try to, but it doesn't look like Raiden got that memo. Good rotation from Distortion. I believe it got spotted out earlier on, or at least it was an MIA call. If you don't see the long lane mage or hunter, whoever it is, in that lane farming, you got to assume they're making that rotation. Good discipline from OutCold Gaming that where teams would get that 4-for-1 would look for something because it's before the 10-minute mark. You were right. Pyromancer not available. The Gold Fury was taken earlier. Tier 1 tower looked mighty tempting, but that's a good shot calling that somebody has to make from the backside to just rally the troops in, because right now OCG are not super ahead despite, you know, such an early dominant start from Just Lion.
That's right. You'd think Just Lion would have a bit more of an edge than just about a level here over Distortion, but it's like you said, they haven't really been able to convert them into buff invades or into neutral objectives or anything like that. Just Lion, though, being this far ahead in his build path will help as SARPEII finds a 2-man stun. Raiden is already down quite low here on this Chronos. They already forced the rewind. Ollie gets the first kill. Just Lion does solo Distortion on the left side, but Dragon King will fall to SARPEII, and they've got one more target in Pulse's clutches. It's Ollie that gets the credit.
Oh, Distortion couldn't find the revenge on Just Lion, so at least another solo kill for the Hunter Ullr player, but in the mid lane. This is the power of Thor, Isis, OCxnnahh. That 3-on-3 is hard to really match.
And that's the only problem I would say with this Loki. I mean, obviously it is a bit silly, but you take that Loki second, they've given up way too much. I mean, the Persephone, the Thor, and the Isis all under the same team is way too much.
I totally agree with you. And Kana actually is probably building into the Mystical Mail. He has the Iron Mail already completed now, tier 2 version there. So a lot of physical protection, a lot of health. Honestly, he could also go Mid-Guardian Mail. The anti-attack speed wouldn't be too bad here considering you're up against a Chronos, an Osiris, an Ullr player as well.
It certainly couldn't hurt, as he doesn't have that much magic damage to worry about in the short term here either. Raiden not going to be ready to really do a ton of damage for a little bit. I don't think so. I mean, if you're Kana, go ahead and focus on making sure GunTeR and Just Lion and FataliTyxFire can't be the ones that keep this game going. As Kana considering a dive, GunTeR Warrior looks for the turnaround, does trade some damage, but has to ult defensively to get out of there.
And every time GunTeR is getting bullied out like this, he's missing out on so much farm. Even with the decoy, it's not going to really stop the gold you lose from once the tower does hit those minions.
Nice try from Distortion, but he couldn't quite catch Just Lion there, who manages to leap over and get out. Ollie looking for the dive and catches Raidunw before the rewind can get off in time. Surrender vote being considered now this one. I mean, maybe things are a bit out of reach because of that Loki, and you've given up so much in the 3v3.
Could be a possibility for a solo kill in the mid lane. FataliTyxFire, you're gonna try to get this last hit, but he's getting choked under the tower. A beautiful wing gust there to be able to maneuver through his own minions.
Honestly, that might be worse than the Loki solo. I just don't think FataliTyxFire has been comfortable in this Osiris at all this game. He's level 9. He's almost the lowest farm in the game, only ahead of Dragon King, as now Arial Arise pulled the Oni Fury. Just Lion is stuck behind the wall and will certainly have steal potential with the hail of arrows, maybe even some kill potential if he combos it. He comes in suddenly towards the end, but Arial Arise have the confirm.
And to kind of piggyback on that conversation about FataliTyxFire, you got to remember what happened to him at level 1. Pulsza invading that speed buff, finding that kill was detrimental towards shutting down FataliTyxFire.
It has certainly put him behind, but I mean, if I'm just talking about the accuracy, I mean, the command of the character, that hasn't felt like it's been there from him so far here this set. So that could potentially be weighing down on OutCold, as we did see the F6 was considered, or the surrender vote here on console, but not going to go through, as Ollie might have a chance to catch out Just Lion. Spirit Ball doesn't connect, he jumps over it, but the circle of protection's there waiting. Just Lion nearly turns this one around, but couldn't find the hail of arrows.
And also avoiding out that sash from a long distance out of Pulsza. SARPEII in a little bit of trouble to ride in on that time rift. Not going to try to hammer without that wall stun. So that tier 1 tower a little bit vulnerable now, as another death now from Just Lion. And he's got to be the person to really rally the troops. That is the win condition for OCG.
SARPEII has found Raidunw. Even at this low of HP, SARPEII went aggressive, couldn't quite find Raidunw there, and now has to avoid the damage. Actually, Raidunw might be in more trouble than he thinks. Kana's rotating over, as is Ollie. And in all honesty, he's heading the wrong way. Even Distortion might be able to rotate over to this, and he certainly will. Raidunw and GunTeR Warrior potentially could get caught as Kana responds with an ult.
A great ult to immune the time stop as well. Raidunw had no place to go. He was covered on the north side. He was covered on the east side, so just had to go take a spill there. Even with maybe if he went towards his Loki player, that could have set up a little bit of a tramp or an ambush.
Right.
But instead, giving up his life there. And I'm surprised that SARPEII didn't use his full combo after landing from that Anvil of Dawn. I think he was anticipating that time stop.
Yeah, it felt like he wanted to save the hammer, as Ollie is in some trouble in the middle lane. Just Lion trying to time his damage to get the most value, but Ollie misses the Spirit Ball. Aegis buys him time, and there's the ultimate from Distortion. Just Lion still gets the shutdown, but Distortion with the Bone Rush makes it a 1-for-1 trade.
I think this tier 1 tower is on its last legs for OCG, and this is what Loki does, honestly, between the proxying, doesn't matter if it's tier 2, Phoenix just straight up at the Phoenix line or between the tier 1, tier 2 towers. Somebody needs to ward between the jungle side of the speed buff, and that makes it hard to really group up and push down these last remaining towers, because you got to worry about your own on the defensive side.
FataliTyxFire doing his best to box out with Distortion. It does have GunTeR Warrior rotating over. That will be the ultimate from GunTeR Warrior, and maybe even the dots, but it looks like it's not there. SARPEII shall survive.
I think he already used his one during that ultimate, so not going to apply the dot there. The assassinate, not enough damage quite yet. This Thor not super tanky, but just tanky enough with those reinforced Greaves.
That's right. Those are helping him out, and we don't see that very often. We have seen more junglers moving away from Warrior Tabi, just sort of in general. We've seen a little bit more Talaria boots lately, and maybe this is kind of that same thought process, that maybe you can get more out of a little bit of procs.
Also, looking for a play on Just Lion. Beads was used there. Really fearful of that Windfire Wheels, but going to get chased down by Ollie now.
And not able to quite catch up to Dragon King, but Just Lion's beads might be the most valuable beads on the map right now because of how important he is to OutCold and how little CC immunity he has.
And against the composition of Arial Arise, this is one CC heavy team. Jnagia, Thor, Isis. This is going to be really hard now for Just Lion, especially as he's getting flanked.
Yeah, Pulsza's the same level as FataliTyxFire, so he can win this 1v1. There's the wall to try and lock him back down, and Kana's the one with the knock-up. SARPEII gets credit. Dragon King does still have the dash to try and make it out of there, but Kana has found himself the route that allows for Ollie to hit over the wall with the Spirit Ball, and see you later to Dragon King.
What a good ability there, right? Through the wall there, just
Very
for good measure, but Just what Loki can do on the right side, Chronos can do that same exact thing on the left. Even an Ullr left unattended in mid lane should be able to get this tower, but will respect Ollie's rotation unless he's going to go for the kill.
He thought about it, but when that axe didn't hit, you must leave, and that's exactly what's happening there for the Ullr. Has a second axe available to him. That's a ton of CDR. Made his Blessing Transcendence and Hydras.
Already sitting at about 30% CDR there. Distortion now in a 1v1 up against Raidunw. Time Rift a little bit off the mark. Distortion must have his passive available if he's feeling this confident.
Trying to see if he can punish this Chronos. In comes SARPEII, who might have been too far away to land. Raidunw comes back in to try and find the fight. Hammer closes the gap, and that's a ton of damage. Hydra saying hello.
Just hit him with the over the top that that Hydra Lament does so much damage with a hammer. I was going to say that, like, whack-a-mole, that's what it felt like. That he was the mole and he was getting whacked by the Thor hammer.
Just a quick little one-tap as they put him down. SARPEII finds an important kill on the right and left-hand side. Now we start our next objective, Gold Fury, being looked at by Arial Arise. And Just Lion seems to have recognized this is happening. He'll be here to try and steal with a Harrow of Arrows, but up against the Circle of Protection. It did happen anyway. OutCold steal it away.
I like how he steals the harder time up against the Circle of Protection, and he couldn't do it previously when there was no Circle of Protection. But either way, OCG walk away like bandits now. Arial Arise still have map dominance though. All these towers on the left side stripped away. No more tier 1 towers for OCG to really hide under. It feels like OCG are slowly getting pushed back into a corner.
And OCG just really need to hold on for a little bit longer here at this point, because GunTeR Warrior is farming it up on the right-hand side, getting to the point where he will be able to one-shot Ollie or Distortion relatively easily. But the problem continues to be in the jungle. FataliTyxFire only with 3 items opposed to 4 for SARPEII, but this could help if Kana takes an unnecessary death.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what he's doing there between a rock and a hard place. Like, his teammates aren't even present to make that tower push a possibility, and that's going to help this Osiris come back into it, but FataliTyxFire's returning the favor.
He's jumping back in with the Lord of the Afterlife. Horrific Emblem should buy him some time, but he's definitely going to die. Spirit Ball has been nuts so far from Ollie, but there comes the damage from GunTeR Warrior, but Distortion's probably not even the best target anyway, as Ollie finds the kill on the GunTeR Warrior. Now they got Dragon King locked down in the cage. At the grasp of death, my friend. SARPEII goes to the backline for Just Lion and finds that kill. Dragon King falls as well, and suddenly Raidunw has no friends left on the map.
I can't believe that this just happened. OCG were gifted a free kill, and then they gifted back 4 in return, and this is not something that you can do in order to stay relevant into a game. Now Arial feeling so confident they're going to go for a pre-20-minute Fire Giant.
SARPEII does have to Aegis the Fire Giant here in this spot. Raidunw will at the very least find a tier 2 in left. Doesn't have the minions all the way pushed up, or maybe he could even threaten the Phoenix, but Fire Giant will belong to Arial Arise. But, I mean, we talked about GunTeR Warrior coming back into the point where he'll be able to one-shot targets. Is Distortion even the one he wants to kill? Because, I mean, oftentimes the passive will just get procced.
I agree. I don't think Distortion should be the target, but then who is the target, right? Like, Ollie can Circle Protection himself, buy time with the beats and the Aegis. This is a good composition for self-peel from Arial Arise. It doesn't feel like GunTeR's pick is going to make that much relevance, unless they can kind of force the relics before GunTeR Warrior goes in. Maybe have FataliTyxFire use that Lord of the Afterlife, mitigate that healing done from that Circle of Protection, but that's asking a lot from an under-leveled jungler that's sitting at about 3.5 items. None of them really offensive except for this hybrid Blackthorn's hammer.
It's just not going to be an easy path here for FataliTyxFire. I mean, and I don't want to grill the Loki pickup that early too much in the draft, because I think it was, you know, somewhat glib, a little bit of fun being had there with it, but that is the trouble that you run into, that not only do you give up a lot of good picks, but that's really easy to pick picks that are safe into the Loki as well, as we saw Arial Arise do. But SARPEII has found Raidunw on the right-hand side. FataliTyxFire here as well. Spirit Ball doesn't quite connect, so that means Raidunw gets the ult off. And suddenly GunTeR Warrior's in the thick of it, but there's the grasp of death coming out, and GunTeR Warrior locked down, so is FataliTyxFire. They've already got 2.
They didn't even get Persephone down under the passive, and Raidunw's going to die this time around. It was a 4-for-1 earlier on. This was a 3-for-0, and OCG are positioned in the worst spot possible. The enemy team has Fire Giant, and you're at their side of the jungle. You're just asking for a back time.
Not quite going to work out for them. It's Just Lion and Dragon King trying to catch back up the hard way. They'll grab red buff and back. This tier 2 in mid is a foregone conclusion. It's really about, is there any hope of even keeping this Phoenix standing? And I don't think so. Arial Arise are going to get here way too fast.
And the respawn timer is not short enough for OCG to make this defense a 5-on-5.
And here's the thing, they don't have a hunter for this push, so dying in the jungle hurts even more because you don't even make them do the thing their comp might struggle at,
That's true.
which is sieging.
Well, I don't know. I think their sieging is pretty good in terms of the long-range poke potential, not necessarily killing the Phoenixes.
FataliTyxFire in some trouble, has to use Lord of the Afterlife, actually finds 3, just Lion's low in the back line, but SARPEII is effectively peeled. In fact, SARPEII could be in some trouble, but makes it to the hammer, but over the wall comes GunTeR Warrior with the assassinate. The first kill goes the way of OutCold.
Now OCG are going to chase them down until Ollie puts FataliTyxFire back in his place. GunTeR taken up to the sky. He might go down.
How does Pulsza still have the ult this late in the fight? It's a double kill for Ollie at this point. Dragon King has the own that cuts out Ollie's damage from the first ability, but Spirit Ball's there, and they still don't seem to have enough damage. Finally, Ollie gets his 3rd kill of this fight, but Raidunw responds by cutting down Kana.
Good time stop, but it just wasn't enough. Now it's only just Lion to play defense. That middle Phoenix already fell earlier. Left side is vulnerable and for the taking, but instead, I think that Arial Arise have to reconsider how they're going to siege this. Just Lion has a lot of burst damage, and there's no real minions to help this Titan end.
Yeah, Pulsza's the only real front line that's remaining. They do have both Curious here in Ollie and Distortion, but that's all magical ability-based damage for the most part, which isn't going to help a ton with this Phoenix. They really need some minions in there.
Yeah, this is going to be problematic now
They gotta
because
leave.
Arial has overstayed their welcome. FataliTyxFire is going to chase this down, allowing Just Lion the follow-up.
Well, maybe they don't have to leave if Distortion still has the ultimate, locks down Just Lion. FataliTyxFire obviously can't handle the heat here at this point, so maybe he should leave the kitchen. But now he's got some jukes of his own. Distortion finally shuts that down.
Yes, Ollie with the passive has 30% CDR now. You got to respect those circular protections. It's just Arial being too far ahead at this point. Even with the revive from FataliTyxFire, Just Lion without his defensive relics got popped like a weasel.
And ends up falling 15-3 and 10 for Ollie in the middle lane. A monster performance from this Isis here so far for Arial Arise, and he's not the only one. I mean, look at this build path, though. He's got Jade Emperor's Crown and Spirit Robe towards the tail end. I mean, he's doing all his damage from levels and experience, so might as well get some prots.
Yeah, at this point, the only real threat for you to die is going to be GunTeR Warrior. That Assassinate now is going to have 30 less physical power, all of his abilities with that less power as the Spirit Robe. Once you do get stunned by Assassinate, now the Aim Strike, the Stealth does 15% less damage. So this is a great pickup in a spot when you are ahead. Defense wins championships.
And it certainly will do well here as the Assassinate from GunTeR Warrior not well timed. That hammer from SARPEII was the wrong read entirely. He'll take to this guy and come back down. SARPEII hasn't hit much of anything, but ends up winning the fight anyway because GunTeR Warrior is just that far behind.
Ollie didn't even hit anything, but he was just there for moral support,
Right.
if anything, as it kind of forced GunTeR to stay there because he knew that the Isis was covering the option of the jungle. He had to go for the last hit.
Fire Giant is back on the map, and Dragon King might not even get to see it. He's been caught out by himself. Meanwhile, Just Lion has found SARPEII, and his damage is still very much real. He's just going to try and damage push through it, and he does. Just Lion solos SARPEII.
A great play from Just Lion. A little risky, but it pays off now, but he can't really assist Dragon King in his miraculous great escape that time.
Ends up falling to make it 1-for-1. You know, Just Lion doesn't have any lifesteal at this point. I guess that would just get in the way of doing a bunch of damage, which is what he's trying to do right now.
Well, at this point, sitting at level 20, your ultimate now in the axe form gives you lifesteal. So that's what he's going to be relying on. If he really wants to, if he can get enough gold before the game ends, he can sell off that Warrior Tab by get the Swiftness Potion, and then maybe build into an Aussie.
Yeah, maybe even a Blood Forge, but
be
that
bad.
might be too expensive to kind of hit to your point. Also, it'd be a lot cheaper as Fire Giant comes down in favor of Arial Arise. OutCold not contesting that, and Just Lion might be just dead here on the right-hand side. He's already used the Aegis, but there's just too many members of Arial Arise here on the right-hand side. No way you live through that.
I'm kind of surprised that he even uses the Aegis there. I think that you should just save that for a rainy day. There's no way you're getting out.
Accept your death, I suppose, on the right-hand side. Tier 2 tower will now fall, and Arial Arise can start to make a push on this right-hand side. GunTeR Warrior not going to be here for it. He's trying to see if he can bait SARPEII at the speed, and it's worked so far. Beads come out to get him through the wall, stun. And he'll steal away the speed buff too, but the rest of his team is trying to fight under Phoenix.
A little interesting play there from GunTeR Warrior as the Beats was still down, and he times the Assassinate to stop that Berserker's barrage. Could chase him down, but instead he's split pushing that tier 2 tower. Such a good idea here for the late game Loki.
In comes SARPEII with the ultimate, the wall stun as well, and GunTeR gets punished. Doesn't even find the tier 2 tower. Raidunw does get that rewind off in time. It's been slow going on this right Phoenix. They just don't have much damage, so instead they'll try and take the fight underneath. Raidunw low in the back line. Kana claims the scalp.
This Vent Anger Mystical Mail combination is putting out so much DPS here, chasing out FataliTyxFire while the rest of Arial focusing their attention on the right side Phoenix.
Dragon King low, Spirit Ball off the mark, but Distortion doesn't need the stun. Pulsza finds FataliTyxFire, and this might just be it. Totally 5 members up for Arial Arise in right. Only just Lion to try and defend. It's slow going, burning down this Phoenix, but with some minions in there, they can do enough work to where they should be able to end.
I think so too. Just Lion had a great early performance and a good showing in that mid game, but his team couldn't follow suit.
But I do think if you're out there looking for some players, Just Lion has certainly showed you that he's got the mechanics, as now he falls for the DSI. That will be it for the Titan, and Arial Arise will certainly take game 1 in a dominant fashion, centered largely around Ollie's performance on this Isis.
And this is a good test to see how they can bounce back from those early deficits. That early death on Distortion could definitely hinder some players' mentalities, but it didn't seem like it got to the worst of them.
It also showed, I think, that this team can handle a little bit of jank, right? I mean, it was the Loki solo here this time, the Osiris in the jungle for FataliTyxFire, and that did not quite work out for them here this time. FataliTyxFire in particular, I think, was a bit more of a problem even than GunTeR, though they never got a team-fighting presence out of GunTeR much either because he was on that Loki. So, OutCold, I'd wager having a bit of fun.
Hey, if I told you a score line of 15 kills, 3 deaths, and 15 assists, what would you say?
I would assume that you all won handily and that you got a first pick Persephone or Isis or something.
That's kind of what happened there for Ollie on the Isis there, having a great time, and I'm curious if OCG are going to let the Isis go through again.
I doubt that we'll see that happen from them next time, but it can be hard to say. We'll have a chance to see after this quick break in Game 2.
Alienware, the official PC provider of the SMITE Console League.
Well, OutCold struggle in game number 1. It's Arial Arise that come out on top, but that's only game number 1. OutCold can certainly bounce back, and they've been a strong enough team in the past where I think there's a good chance that they might. My name is Finch, joined here by Anatoly, oCxnnahh right over to my left. I suppose for you all it's mirrored, but it doesn't really matter that much. Totally, I imagine that some of your advice would be in picks and bans here for OutCold in terms of making improvements.
Yeah, don't give up the top 3 picks in the top 3 slots, right?
Persephone, Isis, Thor.
When you're banning, I guess, okay, you're banning Set, and then you ban away King Arthur, Amaterasu. Like,
Yeah,
if you're going to leave 3 of them, allow them to pick one, and you can get the other 2. But instead, they have their own identity, which I respect as well. They just couldn't really execute it the way they wanted to.
Well, I mean, the Ullr, I think, lived up to first pick value, and because
Yes.
Chulainn played very, very well. It was the Loki that didn't quite live up to not being an Isis or to not being a Thor in that spot, I'd say.
It's kind of hard to have that much of a frontline heavy draft up against an Isis and a Persephone that can punish you for getting too close to the action.
I really do think it was also just a bit of a bad luck for that Loki, right? That is not the draft you want to take him into.
Definitely not. I mean, like, that's hard because you're picking Loki so early, right? So you're kind of revealing your cards. Like, let's find out what Ariel we're going to draft before you lock in such a late-game assassin.
Well, King Arthur will be first picked here by OutCold. A lot of the good stuff is banned this time. Persephone, Isis, Amaterasu, and the Set all taken away. But Arial Arise looks like they want to get in on the fun here as well. Anubis, top pick for them, and the Camazotz. All right, early predictions for where we're going to be going with this one, totally, because if the players are having some fun, I feel like we should too here. Just all damage for Arial Arise is my theory now.
Oh, like what their whole draft is, not where the god is going for the lane.
Yeah, what's the game plan for Arial Arise? It looks like they're just picking people who do a lot of damage is the plan.
Yes, that seems to be the play right there. I would love to see maybe a Cerberus with this draft. That magical penetration from the Ghastly Breath would help Kuku and Anubis just shred targets.
Certainly could do some good damage. On the other side, OutCold have drafted the King Arthur and the Jormungandr, along with the Zeus. Somewhere, Ryan Agro Bailey is celebrating that we get to see a little bit of some of the Zeus out here today. Arial Arise are banning the Ullr away from Chulainn, as well as the Jingwei, and now adding in the Fafnir. This does give them that AoE coerce. I don't know how much it's going to do for them. Perhaps they just wanted yet another dragon-type creature, maybe, for him to turn into. I don't know if there's some synergy here that lines up. Maybe it's a skin synergy I'm missing.
It could be the coerce idea where, like, if you get Gem of Isolation and you coerce, like, one of these targets for Anubis or Kuku, they're going to apply that slow without them having to build Gem of Iso.
Well, there you go. Rama and Odin come in to try and lock down the Anubis and the Kukulkan, who don't particularly have any escapes. They'll add the Ganesha to give them a little bit more frontline. So these drafts do have some relative tankiness to them. The only difference is that OutCold have a Hunter that might come up later on if they have to make some pushes, as they'll have that sustained physical damage. But let's move into game number 2 and see where all these picks are going to end up going here, Anatoly, because I imagine they'll have a little bit of fun with it.
Oh, I think so as well. Kana playing the Anubis solo lane. Very easy to clear with once you get that talent trinket. Dragon King rocking that splice Jormungandr now.
You know, it reminds me a little bit of Senior Week, totally, is how I feel. You know, they played the whole phase. It's been tough this whole time, but now that they're relatively locked in, you know, why not have a little bit of fun here as GunTeR Warrior, Pulsza, Dragon King, and Ollie mixed in a 2v2 by the speed buff on the order side. I mean, it's Pulsza and Ollie who are looking for the invade, and they're being caught in the breath here from Dragon King. A nice hammer buys them a moment as Ollie watches on as Pulsza will almost certainly not make it out.
I mean, yeah, he's not going to make it out, but it's going to take a long time to kill this
That's 9
Fafnir.
damage a tick.
It's a lot of damage.
Finally, GunTeR Warrior stomps on him like Mario as Ollie starts up the speed buff, but this is a pipe dream at best. No, it's not. He actually does manage to grab the objective.
He has Assassin's Blessing.
Oh, you're right. It's Ollie Jungle Ganesh here as Chulainn has started up on the red.
Jukes! He's juking with the global emote.
I love it. Well, I mean, if he was in combat, he'd be stopped, right? So it's kind of like taunting them. But no, he managed to maintain it, even as Chulainn rolls over for the second kill.
The mind games were so real. So he's using the special emote to do the roll, and then he jumps, doing like a little belly flop. So he jukes going towards the north side of the camps to apply that he was going to escape there. And he baits out not only the spit, but also the jump. Still dies at the end, but that was kind of funny.
Well, SARPEII, who's normally in the jungle here for Arial Arise, appears to be on the Camazotz long lane, and he is in some trouble. There's 4 members here on the left-hand side, and OutCold have found 3 quick kills. Though, to be fair, Arial Arise have gotten a bit overzealous.
They did, and to be fair, this is how the game started in the previous one.
Yes.
Where Chulainn got a bunch of kills, this time on the Ram. Also, a bunch of kills to start things off. Probably better to get these kills on a Ram as opposed to an Ullr.
Yes, Ram can transition to the late game very nicely. In fact, it's kind of the reason you draft him as FataliTyxFire finds the stun. In fact, Kana takes him down. That's huge on the Anubis and solo. And Tully, I don't know, I feel like you've told me Anubis solo in some situations can actually be pretty good.
I mean, as long as you're not getting ganked by the jungler, you win basically every single matchup. You can outclear everyone at level 1. Like, they can't kill you fast enough before you clear the full wave with your Plague of Locusts.
Dragon King might be stuck between a rock and a hard place. Ollie cannot find the dash for the stun. GunTeR Warrior has already used the leap, so he's all out of escapes, but he's not running. Just Lion takes down Ollie, and they push Arial Arise back under their tier 1 tower at 4 now for OutCold.
GunTeR Warrior now taunting as well on the Yoda. He's feeling himself quite a lot, part of every single kill from OutCold Gaming, and this has been a huge 180 from his last Osiris performance.
This is good news, though, for SARPEII. Camazotz into Zeus probably favors the Camazotz a lot, and we see more from the Assassins here in the long lane, but this is exactly the kind of matchup that makes that feel relatively appetizing to bring an Assassin over there.
If he can land the stun and hit the Death Gaze, this should be a kill.
FataliTyxFire walking a straight line, does not seem worried about the stun. And there it is, Death Gaze, yeah, FataliTyxFire can live.
That was very easy. Once you apply the slow, you get the guaranteed Mummify, guaranteed Death Gaze ticks, and that was another easy solo kill. Now level 6, no teleport for FataliTyxFire, starting with the Blink.
Yeah, man, if Anubis just for some reason couldn't be ganked, he'd be a great pick into King Arthur, I feel like, because you don't have to worry about his movement so much. You have all these big AoE abilities that can track him. Not bad.
Also feeling really cute, laughing at his solo laner as he steals away the blue buff. That wasn't intended for him, but either way, Kana doesn't really need blue buff now with this kind of an advantage. He has already Bancrofts fully completed, a lot of magical power against a warrior that has no magical defense now. He's dealing so much damage.
You know, I feel like everyone else on Arial Arise is having some fun, but Kana wants to win lane over here, man. He's been playing relatively straight up, I feel like, on this Anubis here, trying to win for real.
The two guys you always pick if you're trying to win lane in the solo lane is going to be Anubis and then Hades.
Right, if you're trying to come in and maybe style a little bit. Well, Kana trying to keep GunTeR Warrior pinned down here on the right-hand side, but he's got backup Dragon King and the Odin both, but actually, GunTeR Warrior thinks better of it and starts to retreat.
Looks like they're going to swap lanes as well. Dragon King now on the Jormungandr support. Going to make his appearance here. Now, the thing about Jormungandr is you don't have to get that close to the lane to clear. Your spit is very safe. A little bit of action on the left, though.
Distortion has found GunTeR Warrior. That's huge, and Raidunw now in trouble. And this is where the Zeus has very few options. I mean, as most mages will, up against the Assassin on the left-hand side. SARPEII gets that one easy.
I need to worry about FataliTyxFire, but he's only a level 4 King Arthur, and he has a pool. Once you kill somebody with a Camazotz, you get that passive for the sustain.
Now, SARPEII's missed a couple abilities, but this is still a favorable trade for him on this Camazotz, especially with Pulsza showing up. Now, this might add, he doesn't even have Glad Shield yet, so no, it doesn't matter. Pile up, fellas, and they take down FataliTyxFire.
The third death for this King Arthur, not a good look. Just now finishing off that Gladiator Shield. Whether you go from the solo lane to the long lane, it's like going from the frying pan to the oven when you're this under leveled.
And I don't mind having a bit of fun here, but blinking into the Camazotz there, I don't see a way that you ever win that fight, right? Especially where you don't have Glad Shield finished yet.
Yeah.
Just a bit of throwing his life away there from Fatality.
You're level 4, you don't have Sundering Strike, you don't have Excalibur's Wrath. There's a Camazotz pool right there beside you. I feel like there's a lot of tools missing from FataliTyxFire's kit to make that kill a realistic possibility.
And did not pan out there as Distortion does avoid getting hit by GunTeR Warrior's Bird Bomb damage. Distortion's on the Kukulkan, who we also don't see nearly as much of nowadays, but I don't know, I feel like there's some items that kind of help Kukulkan out, and he definitely can clear the wave relatively easily. Is it just that he lacks some safety, or do you think maybe there's a spot for Kuku?
There's definitely a spot for Kuku, absolutely, especially in the long lane. Like, Cyclone Spin has played Anubis in the long lane. So if you can play Anubis in the long lane to some relative success, you can definitely play Kuku in that same position, especially when you have to go Book of Thoth to synergize with the passive. It's so easy to stack that when you have all the solo farm anyway. And there's a great power spike at the level 10 marker with red buff. Once you get Book of Thoth completed, you're doing a lot of damage.
Kana has soloed FataliTyxFire underneath his tier 2 tower at this point. GunTeR Warrior rotating over. But I don't know how much he can do here in this situation either. He should probably stay at that distance. But with backup from Just Lion, maybe they can.
I don't know. It looks like it's a 3-on-2 favoring Arial Arise, but Dragon King making his appearance. Roll out forward to avoid the Spirit of the Nine Winds.
But he ends up on the Dharmic Pillars and will fall. That's the kill credit given to Distortion, but that work was all done by Ollie. Kana rotates over and gets GunTeR Warrior, but a Lightning Storm from Raidunw cuts down Ollie.
That's such a cute little rain cloud over there. I love that chibi Zeus skin, but this is important to find some return kills. When you're grouping up against a Zeus, it's hard to really separate yourself, especially when Kana's stationary, dropping the Plague of Locusts. He's an easy target to land that Chain Lightning on.
Kana at this point now 4-0-0, level 10, the highest level in the game by a pretty significant margin. But the good news for Kana is that the next closest member is on his squad. It's SARPEII at 9 on this Camazotz, who's also had a relatively easy time in lane so far.
And the cool thing about this Anubis Cuckoo combination is that only one of them needs to go Spirit the Magus, as long as they're hitting that same exact target. I'm expecting that Kana is going to be building into the Spirit instead, giving Distortion more magical power in his build. He can go into Doom Orb, he can go into that Rod of Tahuti.
Chulainn in some trouble, has to take to the sky with the Astral Strike. We putting on the scope, perhaps. FataliTyxFire should be falling here for another death, though SARPEII missing some abilities again, making this hard. Distortion has found Chulainn, and SARPEII can't hit enough abilities. FataliTyxFire gets the kill, but that's more of a drop from SARPEII.
That definitely was a huge drop there. Dragon King going to punish Ollie as well. GunTeR Warrior going to try to jump away there. He actually just blinking away. GunTeR doesn't have the hammer, already used it there. I don't think the underhand tactics would find the kill.
No, GunTeR Warrior trying to bait Pulsza to jump in at this point, knows there's not much kill potential there. Really all he can do is delay the back. But yeah, man, SARPEII gifting one back over to a struggling GunTeR Warrior on the left-hand side. Not the look, I think.
No, definitely not the look there. So that's going to be his second death thus far, but I think that the Camazotz is doing decent already. Sitting in level 9 with Transcendence completed. He has a lot of kill potential with the Blink against targets that is already hard enough as is to get away from a Camazotz. A Zeus, a Ram as well, and at this early, the Ram and the Zeus doesn't have the most magical power / physical power to deal with the Camazotz.
There's the ultimate. It hits Chulainn and for the knockup, but there was no follow-up damage. Distortion is out of mana. He's trying to follow up just for autos at this point, and it's going to cost him his life very likely as GunTeR Warrior has the stomp. Arial Arise end up losing one, but Pulsza comes in to make it at least a 2-for-1 trade when they very nearly could have gotten nothing. In fact, Ollie's trying to show off some of that Ganesh damage, but without the Dharmic Pillars, he'll be left wanting.
Yeah, this jungle Ganesh has magical power in his build. It's just not enough in a 1v2 situation. SARPEII trying to get revenge now. He has that bat out of hell up against FataliTyxFire.
And is saving it up until now. Once again, missed some critical damage. SARPEII being very patient with the ultimate, doesn't even need it. This time he's able to find the autos, and FataliTyxFire can't stick around long enough. The lane swap maybe not quite doing enough.
No, definitely not quite yet. That's his 5th death now from FataliTyxFire. The Gladiator Shield and Evolved Warrior's Blessing. Not enough physical protection to deal with SARPEII at this current state of the game, despite not even having real penetration in his build, despite missing that very important Vampiric Screech for the healing as well, and with this ultimate, a second kill now for SARPEII.
Chulainn can't even make it to the sky in time. SARPEII grabs the kill. Now, I am noticing that we're at zeros on those Furies. Y'all want to head over to some objectives there, fellas? Or are we just out here looking for kills, as it's been 22 in not even 11 minutes?
No, they definitely queued Arena, right? Like, this is not a Conquest match right now currently, but Kana having a field day now at 5-0, taking out Raidunw.
Okay, I guess I said an objective. I guess I should have specified. They need this Anubis here, though. His damage is what's really going to help them burn this early on. And Kana suddenly arrived. He does not have Death Gaze, but this is still in the range of the doable, especially if no one recognizes it. Fire Giant low, in comes the ult. Distortion dies, but Arial Arise get the objective.
In his last dying breath, I got you, fam, as he drops the ultimate. A Blink now in the mid lane. SARPEII trying to abuse Chulainn. And of course, to use that ultimate defensively. Also, good distraction from Dragon King, but they still gonna need to hide while they wait for GunTeR.
GunTeR Warrior drops the cage, and that's 2 we put a ring on. Pulsza, the one who doesn't even have an escape plan. GunTeR Warrior shuts down the Camazotz. Pulsza takes the hard way back to base and suddenly OutCold finds 3 kills, and now can start pushing mid.
Kana doesn't have his ultimate up quite yet. About 30 more seconds or so until that comes up. GunTeR looking for that flank opportunity. Healing quite a bit, actually, from that one plagued gonna be at full health, but with that Fire Giant already down, you lost one member to the Fire Giant, two members to a silly engagement in mid lane. And at what cost do you just get this objective? You're just delaying your own success.
They have gotten the Fire Giant onto Kana, and that's, you know, at least somewhat a big deal. Here's the Death Gaze. He just has to track Raidunw enough. And he does take him down. Now Dragon King is slowed, stuck inside the tornado. That's another kill onto the Jormungandr. And Arial Arise coming out 15 kills to 12, but still only about a 3K gold lead.
At this point, you might as well stack Height of Urchins if you're Arial Arise. There's so many kills on their side as Kana already stacking up his skin as well at this level 15 mark. GunTeR Warrior going to absorb most of that damage with that Raven shield.
Kana now left without any abilities to try and sustain from, so FataliTyxFire gets a huge shutdown bonus by killing Kana. Distortion has to use beads to get away from the King Arthur, but FataliTyxFire has beads as well, and he sticks close to Distortion on the back. Meanwhile, Ollie is in some trouble as the Ram is taken to the sky, and there the snipes from Just Lion. Suddenly 3 for OutCold in a row.
How can you kill that Ganesh that's just rolling away? That should be animal cruelty, Finch, but instead SARPEII, not interested in rotating, gets this tier 1 tower. Also, Pulsza was not interested in rotating, gets the enemy red buff, and now setting up for a flank potentially in the tier 2.
SARPEII and Pulsza. Raidunw stuck underneath the tier 2, perhaps not recognizing that he's in danger here. He is enjoying a little bit of laughing, but there's the blink from SARPEII to get the Aegis out. Now Pulsza can come join the show, but I don't even know how much he needs them. Pulsza just steals the kill at the end there with the underhand tactics. You love to see that.
It's because of the red buff, honestly. If he doesn't have that red buff, then that kill is not even a possibility. So already Arial Arise extending their lead a little bit further with their 16th kill, but not in the gold category. They haven't grouped up for this Fury objective, despite getting the very first fired objective basically once it spawned.
Well, I mean, isn't that how it normally goes? You got to go get a couple Fire Giants before you can come back towards the Fury side of the map. You know, you don't want to go for Fury and Fire Giant be up. They could steal it or something.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Come over to the Furies first.
I don't trust that theory. Sometimes, you know, a famous person named Albert Einstein said sometimes if the theory doesn't match the facts, you have to change the facts.
Right, that sounds like it. As the ultimate from Distortion whiffs. Casper, though, probably got a bit of a headache after that one. In comes Dragon King. And that sets up for GunTeR Warrior to punish Ollie on this Ganesh. And man, I mean, can you imagine Ollie, the jungler, with no kills already, 14.5 minutes into the game? That's just brutal. That's brutal.
He needs to get his act together. SARPEII getting a casual solo kill yet again. Just Lion. GunTeR Warrior not having a good time in the mid lane either. Now Kana should be fine against FataliTyxFire. Still no magical defense for this King Arthur outside of the Warrior's blessing.
Kana just going to look for the clear as Dragon King and Raidunw continue their warpath in the middle lane. They have not retreated. Pulsza trying to 1v1. Now has SARPEII as Kana cuts down FataliTyxFire and right. SARPEII has the damage and Raidunw can't stand through it all, and now Dragon King is suddenly in an awful spot. Doesn't have the ultimate. That's a full-on deicide and a double for SARPEII. Now Arial Arise can start taking stuff off the map.
Yes, they could, Finch. They got this tier 2 tower guaranteed in the solo lane. No one should be there in time. Gold Fury could be looked at as well with some of these rotations from Arial Arise on the fountain side, but the tier 1 tower in middle looking mighty juicy as well.
So Kana grabs the tier 2 in right. The tier 1 in mid still stands as SARPEII is zoning Just Lion, who stands still. Maybe didn't realize 60% of his HP was on the line. But it's a bait. In comes GunTeR Warrior to keep him alive. So SARPEII just heads right towards the Ram. But Ram still has the ultimate to allow him to reposition. A good mummify, though, from Kana. Distortion gets Just Lion, and now GunTeR Warrior's in some trouble.
No jump, but he has the speed buff for the mobility. No Phantom to get away from that cage. Kana doesn't have the positioning to get the wrap off. GunTeR should be fine. He has no blink if he gets in combat.
But has his back interrupted, but he should be safe, as you mentioned at this point. Now FataliTyxFire can blink it, and Pulsza is too low HP to survive here. The Lightning Storm doesn't find much, but Raidunw gets the kill on the Pulsza, even with just one tick. And Arial Arise's push has now been slowed.
And look what Ollie's doing the whole entire time. He's split pushing the jungle Ganesh style, as one normally would do. Right. Getting the tier 2 tower uncontested.
Well, that's the big strength of jungle Ganesh, is his split push potential. The Turn of Fate clear is pretty nutty as Ollie is now in some trouble. He's taking a ton of damage from Raidunw, and he melts underneath the Zeus pressure, but Distortion answers back. That's Tomb put on the board for Arial Arise to keep this one going. Just Lion rolls in aggressively, but he catches a big ultimate right to the face.
And Kana takes out GunTeR Warrior with that Death Gaze. Should be out the world. Serpent not used there as he's getting distracted by SARPEII.
Wow, so that means Kana gets out basically for free. I thought for sure Dragon King was ulting to try and catch Kana, but doesn't even look for it. And instead, the Anubis gets to head all the way back to base and start farming. I mean, despite being level 18, he only has 3.5 items. I don't know, I feel like he should be building a little bit faster than this, but they've been some, you know, some cost-effective ones.
Can we look at Golden Hand? I'm actually kind of curious for Kana. He does have 3 points.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, he's going to finish off that Raidunw. He already has the Spear of Magus, amplifying his own damage, amplifying Distortion's damage. Could even see maybe Gem of Isolation as well, just because why not?
Sure. Give
High
a little bit
effects piece wouldn't be bad.
A little bit of survivability, but the way Kana's building, I assume my man just wants even more damage. At a certain point, though, Kana, you should back. 3,500 gold is going to slow you down running around with all that gold in your pockets. You know, you gotta back it. He's looking for it, but now he can't because FataliTyxFire's there. Meanwhile, Lion, considering getting soloed by the Gold Fury?
Okay. He was hoping his Aussie would help him out there, but this point in the game, at 17 minutes, to only be level 13 as a ROM, yeah, I think he was expecting more DPS.
Yeah, he has not gotten enough farm this game. Raidunw has had a rough go of it as well. 3-7-1 for that Zeus from the long lane. GunTeR Warrior does punish Ollie, who's also struggled on the Ganesha. But the good news is Kana did indeed have time to back, finish the Raidunw, and buy a full Obsidian Shard.
Good ultimate there from the Kukulkan, followed up by Kana as well, taking out FataliTyxFire. That's also been struggling this game. Finally has magical defense and damage mitigation, but he's just severely underleveled at this point.
It's just not. I don't think it's going to be enough to help you up against Kana. Like you said, he's too underleveled at this point. I thought Pulsza was transforming so they can make a play on Fire Giant, but you know, you got to be in the Draconic Corruption if you want to burn down a tier 2 in mid, and that's exactly the plan. The squad grouping up to try and grab that.
He was just dropping the base right there. Let's get that coerce going off there. Kana gonna immune that knockup as well. Death Gaze with a Spear of Magus and the DPS from Distortion should be a kill even without the ultimate from the Kukulkan.
This is all they need, is just these two to burn down the Fire Giant. Now they'll take a look at the Pyromancer. The team did get the tier 2 tower in mid, and SARPEII has found Raidunw. He's aggressive in the jungle, way down by mid Harpies, and Lion, I think, is starting to realize there's not much they can do to affect the outcome here. He's just going to look to trade Ollie, but he gets caught by the dash, and there's the ultimate from Distortion for the confirmation, and Ollie, disappointed he was going to get his first kill.
That looked like it, Finch. It really did. He even popped the bracers in a spot where he thought he was about to die. I think he was definitely going to die without that relic, but you know, sometimes you need that one team player, and that's what Ollie brings towards Arial Arise.
That's what Ollie brings. Kana doesn't hit the Mummify, but it doesn't matter. GunTeR Warrior used the beads anyway. And they aren't going to be able to make their push there, but they've got 5 members up with Fire Giant on everyone. Lion and Raidunw will be back up in time for this defense. And what do you think about Arial Arise's siege? It's all around Kana, I'm thinking.
It has to be, right? Like, there's a lot of space control from not only Kana, but Distortion as well. This Kukulkan-Anubis combination is hard, I think, for OutCold Gaming to position effectively, or even SARPEII split pushing on the left side. He can easily rotate over with the blink, dive you with that bat out of hell. It's hard for OCG being this behind in the gold and experience category.
That's going to be a difficult defense from them. They are now down 13,000 total. SARPEII winning his matchup with FataliTyxFire. Meanwhile, Dragon King goes to the sky, but GunTeR Warrior flattened. Kana melts Lion as well, and suddenly Dragon King is on the full retreat. Meanwhile, SARPEII has kept FataliTyxFire busy and left, so now Ollie decides to join the show. Takes to the sky for the Battle of Hell as SARPEII, and FataliTyxFire is still swinging.
Wow, he actually avoids the Excalibur's Wrath with that ultimate. Fatality's Glad Shield not enough to survive that 1v2 despite the 6% mitigation from that Oni's Hunter's Garb, and middle Phoenix very vulnerable. Now it's only Raidunw to play defense.
What is Raiden's respawn timer at this point? Didn't he just die and he's already back up? And the squad doesn't even want Phoenix as they want this kill. Underhanded tactics miss. Mummify not there, but Pulsza gets the kill in the end. And SARPEII is done with this. He's grabbing the left side Phoenix. As Pulsza dies, I assume, to the Phoenix.
That's true, but being tagged by Raidunw, so he gets kill credit. Middle Phoenix should survive now with Dragon King up, unless the shots.
Can't find.
Nah, not quite yet. A little bit out of range there, a little too far away to get the guaranteed kill. I think even if he hits all 3, it would have to be on Distortion, not onto Ollie, to get those kills.
You know, sometimes you go to a grocery store chain and you go a lot, but it's like a different location, so stuff's kind of in different places. It's like that. Just Lion couldn't find the shots there, and I sometimes can't find stuff in grocery stores.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, that's what that whole thing was.
That mirrored grocery store.
Right? You're like, how come all Walmarts aren't just built the same, you know? How come stuff's in different spots, different places? You know? That's confusing to me.
Different management.
Maybe that's what it is. You know, I got used to growing up electronics in the back right of the store, and then you come move out to Atlanta and it's in the front on the left. You know, it's all nonsense.
Well, the sports and fishing is always in the back.
That it should be, right? Way in the back.
Way
That's
in the
pretty
back.
consistent. You're right.
That's about the only thing I remember where Walmart really is. That's the only place I go.
You know who else is way in the back, at least in terms of farm? Just Lion having a tough time right now with this ROM. Level 15 with 9 deaths. Raidunw has struggled as well. 9 for him. But they've been able to hold on throughout this 22-minute game. But GunTeR Warrior in some trouble. SARPEII gets over the wall with a bat out of hell, but Pulsza yet again steals the kill.
I think that was a necessary kill because otherwise GunTeR Warrior blinks away at the last possible moments. Missing 2 of those swoops. He was about to land the 3rd one because of the cage blocking the jump. He had to find a secondary way out with a bat out of hell, but the timing window would have gave GunTeR the option to escape with a blink.
If there was ever a trial of the kill steal, you'd be good representation, Tolu. You had his back there. That was not bad.
It's kill confirmed, man.
Kill confirmed. See, look at that. You're rebranding and everything, too. Perfect. You'd be a good lawyer for him to have. As Arial Arise have 3 members considering trying to actually do the thing that wins you the game. Everyone else is chilling. No, there's 4 members here as they start to push down this middle Phoenix. In fact, they might just be trying to end this one outright. They're moving beyond mid-Phoenix. Dharmic Pillar Shamali, that's huge damage from the Ganesha in the jungle, and I don't think the Titan can handle it. 23.5 minutes in, and Arial Arise seal it.
60 kills in 23.5 minutes.
That's
Arial
a ton.
Arise getting a bunch of that one. Great performance from Kana on the Anubis. And to be that flexible with their draft and still make it work, despite also giving up 3 early deaths, shows the power of this PS4 European team.
I think so too. Kana was obviously the MVP in this one though, because as you said, it was a bit of a disaster start for Arial Arise here, despite some of the fun that was being had. And Kana seemed serious the entire time. My man was trying to win with this Anubis. 11-3-4, gave a really hard time to FataliTyxFire in the solo lane or whoever was across from him, just melting him.
I like the kind of different style as well, to go from Ollie playing the Isis to the Ganesh in the jungle. This just goes to show how Arial can bring different styles and identities in the placements now.
And while you're right, this is a bit of fun here, I think that you're right to kind of point out that this could show some flexibility for them down the line. You obviously don't do this entire draft, but I mean, SARPEII being comfortable in a Camazotz, Kana comfortable in Anubis in a big matchup. I mean, nothing wrong, I think, with flexing a little bit and showing what you're capable of. That's just our very first set here of the day, though, for PS4 EU. We've got Xbox EU coming up after the break.